Why won't that go on? Art. Well, good afternoon. This is Elaine Glover, and this is Kingdom Connect. And today I have the wonderful privilege of talking to Paul Walder all the way from Chile, and also Craig. But he doesn't live in Chile, he lives in the Midlands. Anyway, this all began just before COVID, and I was speaking to Josephine Jackson. It was the Holocaust Memorial, and also Edith Powney, and they came on my radio show, Lunchtime with Elaine, and I had done a search for Swanage and the Holocaust, and I came up with Trevor Chadwick. And from there, I met Trevor Chadwick's niece, and we said that he really wanted a memorial or a statue. And then we met Moira Perv, and we wanted her to do it because she was actually a wonderful professional at making a statue. Um, then the council took over as usual. But then again, they did raise a lot of money for the statue. But in the meantime, it was Josephine that brought my attention to Alfred Batzdorf. Alfred Batzdorf, I contacted him just before he died, and he left me his memoirs of what it was like to be um, a child from the Kindertransport. And he told me that it was a wonderful place, Swanage. He loved it, felt very welcome, spoke about Roger Brown. Then he went off and worked for two hotels, which were the Sandbanks and the Durley Dean. And the Bournemouth Refugee Committee, although they came via the first Kindertransport, it was the Bournemouth Refugee Committee that then sent them to Swanage and to various places. So, first of all, I knew about Paul through Josephine Jackson, and we had lots of radio chats and various things. And then last year, he said to me, could I help him because he wanted to come to Swanage? Well, in the meantime, I'd put my books on eBay. I didn't really do the books for money. I was just trying to see if I could find any more Kindertransport. And who bought my book but Craig Saul? And he said it was great because he could see a picture of Roger Brown, which his father, his father had a good relationship with Roger as a child and as a later on when, as an adult. So first of all, I want to talk to Craig, and then we'll talk to Paul. So, Craig, can you share with us about your journey, really?
My journey or my dad's journey?
Well, your journey finding your dad and finding the book and then coming to Swanage.
Well, I knew a little bits about my dad's story when he was still with us, and he never really hyped it up. So much. He gave me the basic facts. It's not a subject that he overtly really wanted to talk about, but if you asked him about it, he was quite happy to do so. And when I was young and naive or whatever, and I thought, wow, that's a real adventure in a positive sense, and the people he saw and the things he experienced or whatever, and I didn't realize for the truth of what it was, which was escaping from the Holocaust. So, but as I say, I was young and naive at the time, so the questions I would have asked him if he was still now with us would be very different to the ones I would have asked him when I was in my youth.
Do
But
you wish that he was still alive, really, at the
oh my
moment?
gosh, yes, but he'd be 101 now, so I
Yeah.
don't think he would. I don't think he would wish he would be alive anymore. So there's an age and that you get to, and that's about it. But no, so I was aware of certain things. I'd seen pictures. of him in various magazines because he was on the very first Kindertransport that came in December 38, and therefore
Yes.
the news media was there, the newsreels were there, the photographers were there in Harwich and Dovercourt and other locations. So he was captured on that, and again I was thinking, whoa, sensationalist! This is all very exciting, but it gave me a record of what he a little bit of a record, and you know. After he was gone, it helped me to start piecing things together, and then I always look on eBay from time to time at under the subject matter of or search of Kindertransport, and up came your book, and I thought, well, there's Swanage, and there's reference to Dorset and Bournemouth, and I knew what my dad had been through here. I can't miss out on this one here. What is there to lose? So um, I ordered a copy, and then found a lot more information, and everything started to tie together a lot more.
Yes. And then you see, this is where Paul comes in because you asked me about coming to Swanage, didn't you? You and your two children. Well, they're not children, they're adults now.
Adults, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's suddenly I've
No,
been to
this is
Swansea before, but
Paul.
so did Paul, yeah.
Yes,
Oh yeah.
Paul. You wanted to come to Swanage, didn't you, Paul?
Well, I went last year
Yes, but what I'm
to Sonic
saying is the
with my
thing
children.
was,
Yes,
I just discovered Craig or through the book, and then, well, I'd known you for a while, but you said you wanted me to help you when you came to Swanage to talk about your story, didn't you?
yes. This is the reason why I went to Swanage to meet the community and to share my experience with my father. My father was a Kindertransport kid. So, well, this book is a research, not exactly about the story and what my father told me about his life in England. You know, I talked with another people who met Peter,
Yes.
his sisters, yeah, so people around them because he didn't want to tell us the family everything. No? I don't know how it was the years in Swanage, the war years, no?
Yes.
Good
And he
or
came,
bad.
didn't he come with Trevor Chadwick, didn't he?
Yes, I think that he was one of the first refugees because George Chadwick uh, take took the three boys to the forest school.
Yes.
So the
And
other one was
yes.
um, was sent by ship, and they they came to Harwich and then to London to Victoria Station and then to Swanage.
I
Peter is
think, don't you think, Paul, that um, the statue of Trevor Chadwick with that young boy could have been your father?
of course, yes, is very. I think that this statue keep the memory of people that make life better. No? This
Yes.
statue of solidarity is a statue of love to people. Uh, so he put his life in risk during 1939 to
Mm.
rescue a lot of children in Prague, where Prague was
Yes,
by
because
the Nazis.
otherwise, Paul, I think they wouldn't, your father and Craig's
Mm.
father would have been murdered by the SS, don't you? Your fathers wouldn't be here or had have been here, they wouldn't, they would have died.
I don't know. I don't know that. Maybe my grandparents they have uh, some lucky because he get a visa to Chile. in the last moment.
Yes.
So we, they traveled to Chile with their two daughters, but the other part of the family, the whole family, Walder family that stayed in Vienna,
Yes.
they all was deported to the concentration camps.
Yes.
So this was the fate. It's very lucky. It was something about days or moments. Or so, well, I always ask myself and with my sisters is how my grandfather met Trevor Chadwick and how he, he can uh, send Peter to England. Uh, this is something that my grandfather never told me. But
Yes.
Peter, what he told me is that he is going to a scout weekend,
Oh,
in
wow.
England, something like that. And he remembered that why are my family, my mother, my father, crying so much because I'm going to a holiday in in Swanage with a
I bet he was
with a
wondering what
scout.
was going on.
Yeah, yeah.
So let's turn to Craig now. Can
Mm.
you share with us? Because I mean, I know that you know quite, I think you've been really educated, haven't you, over the past couple of years with Amy and visiting various
Mm.
places. Can you share with us what happened to your father, as in how he was on the train, going on the ship on the very first Kindertransport? Can you let us know what happened?
Well, my dad, I'm guessing, was a little bit older than Paul's dad. My dad was 14 at the time. I don't know how old yours was when he traveled.
Only 8 years
Eight,
old.
which is a big difference. So my dad was effectively already an adult, and within Judaism, he was already classed as an adult. He'd already
Bar
had his bar
mitzvah.
mitzvah and so
Yeah.
on. So he was at that stage. How he ended up on the first transport, that bit I don't know. There were the historical text written that the first 200 children that were on that transport were largely in an orphanage, came out of an orphanage. He was not that case, and it surprised me when I saw it, and I fell for it initially and thought, well, maybe because his parents had separated, maybe he ended up for a short period of time in that situation. But
Wasn't
that
your
that
grandmother something to do with it, or your grandparents that he was on that?
they would have no doubt been key to it, and part of the matriarchal clan or whatever would have done some form of organization to get him out. Obviously, he didn't have a dedicated person or foster parents to go to at the other end at the time, which is why ultimately he ended up in 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 Swanage rather than going straight to his new foster mother. But yeah, he came out. He was on the first boat that landed on December the 2nd, 38. The photos show if you look on Wikipedia and you actually search Kindertransport, the first shot that comes up shows him and two young ladies on the boat, looking very forlorn, head in hand, and so on. The reality was, it was an overnight crossing, a very rough sea crossing. So in fact, they were seasick, but the press obviously took the shot, and it worked very effectively. Then they put them into the holiday chalets at Dovercourt, which of course were intended for summer usage. So there was no central heating. There was no heating in them at all. The poor kids froze, and they had some photographs taken there. And then from there onward down to Swanage. And I think it was there at some point through um, the Bournemouth committee that they got involved, and then my father's foster mother, a Miss Aldridge, who was
And
part of
she
that
was a
committee.
part of the committee, wasn't she?
Yeah, and she obviously took a liking to him and chose him. And he did, as I said earlier, he didn't share so many stories. I think if I'd have asked him, and I have all the questions that I would love to ask him now, he would answer all of those questions. But questions that weren't asked, he didn't necessarily
No.
elaborate and answer. But one of the stories he did tell was that when it came time for selecting the child that was going home with you, and again, no surprise, other Kindertransport survivors have said this. All the little girls went first, little pretty princesses or whatever, then the younger girls and boys, and the older ones 14, for example, like my dad, who was already, 6 foot tall, tall
Yeah.
and gangly, having to shave, he was a man. They were chosen last, and that was very, very dispiriting for him. It was like that situation in a games um, session at school when you have two captains and they pick their football teams to go out on the pitch or whatever, and you know who's going to be first selected, the good ones, and you know that the awful ones and the fat kids and the whatever always get selected last. So it's the cast-offs, and my dad felt like a cast-off in that sense. But I think afterwards everything then materialized, it really matured, and he settled in nicely. Just before I'll let you ask another question there. Paul, you were talking about the statue of Trevor Chadwick and how whether he could relate to his father being the child in that shot. The statue that is at the quayside at Harwich features children looking in various directions or whatever, and I've always associated personally with the child who is looking back forlornly at his homeland, having just arrived. And
That's why
clearly,
you
it's not
like
as
it so much there, isn't it?
yeah, and it's not. It's the shot that was modeled on the sculptor's children. There's no doubt about it. But we can all associate in different ways with the statues and what they mean to us, and
Yes.
take different things away, very emotional things away from those pieces of still life.
Well, during this journey that I've been on with the Kindertransport from the very beginning, when I found Annie Bridger, who's the cousin or the niece of Trevor Chadwick, and we got this lady to, well, we had to go to the council for a meeting, and then they took it over, which was a bit annoying. But then again, as I say, I couldn't have raised the money that they did. But it was amazing to find that my ancestor, Irma Zanker, was on the very transport that your father was on,
Indeed.
Alfred Batstorff and various other, well, the ones. And she was a teacher and a special needs teacher, but she wanted to go on that. And also Florence Nightingale, she was the one who got it together. And there's very little information about Florence, and I don't think she had the recognition she deserves for actually being the first person to get that Kindertransport together because um, she lived in South Africa and Jamaica with her husband, and they did a lot of things with, children that had no food, had luncheon clubs. She was always that way, and she really wanted to help these children. But it was just so amazing because poor old Irma, she went on 2 trips, and when she went back from the second, she was arrested and then murdered in Auschwitz, which left her little boy also on the Kindertransport, and he went to I think he went to Scotland and he was never heard tell of again. He changed his name, and so that's why I feel very stirred up and really into the Kindertransport. And then secondly, a few months ago, I Googled up Zanker on what do you call it, Yad Vashem, and I came across 131 Zankers, and mostly teenagers were murdered in Auschwitz and the Ukraine. And so I can understand now why all this Kindertransport came together. But when you, Paul, said to me, "Can I help you?" I contacted Josephine Jackson so that you could speak at the synagogue. And me and Edith and Maureen went to Swanage and said, where could we have something for these people like Paul and Craig to talk about their fathers? And we just saw the bandstand. So that was the journey, got it together. Paul arrived. I mean, it wasn't a big process, but that specific day when yourself, Craig, and Paul, you gave your stories, and then there was Werner Oder, whose father killed 2,000 Jews because he was an SS officer, and then there was all sorts of people giving their testimonies. That was a memorial. That was a real memorable day, wasn't it?
It was, and I think that we all had that something in common. I've always felt it as I've met one or two people and learnt of one or two people, and as you mentioned, who were on that very first Kindertransport. So I have a bond to people I've never known or met or whatever, and I've met a couple of more people whose parents or other relatives were on that very first Kindertransport, and you immediately feel that coming together with them. And I think the Swanage event was just a wider circle as well. We all had something in common. We Most of us had never met before, and yet we felt an immediate bond, an immediate bridge between ourselves as well, and also that there were some important lessons, and perhaps what has happened in the world in the period since then has just amplified that important lessons that we need to get out there and convey to other people to maybe just maybe prevent a repeat of these situations. But it seems that people never learn. But it's down to us to do our best.
Yes. Paul, what did your children, well, they're older, they're adults, aren't they? But what did Valentino and Bruno, what did they feel about the journey they came to Swanage?
Well, they both are the third generation, but I they grew up with the grandfather Peter.
Hmm.
The Bruno, especially, was a favorite of Peter. He had holidays with him, and
Yes.
so he was very close, very close. And he talked, I think, he talked with Peter about his war years, the years in Senate. So I think that for him, it was a very, very, very special moment.
Yes.
Uh, but for the three of us, it was to go to the reality because everything was related. Everything was told about of other people. So when we went to the statue and we met people like Saul, like you, like Josephine. So this was to like belong
Yes.
to a community that have the same fate and suffer something similar. Yeah? Some of them, most of them live in England, many in States, many in Israel, and not so many in South America. So for us, it was very important
Mm.
because we traveled from the south of the world to this place, what is the center of our story and in some way of our destiny.
What
So
about your son then, Craig? Because then what I liked was then following to that was when we had the unveiling of the blue plaque. And your son came and spoke, and I thought he was amazing. He really, it seemed to have been as special to him as it has been you.
Yeah, he'd never spoken in public really before in that sort of setting. So it was that was the challenge for him, but I think he handled it incredibly well. He and our daughter both loved their grandparents as well. But I think it's only in recent times that he's really learnt the true story of the backstory to it. Started to get more involved. Started to go onto Facebook on platforms like Kindertransport Dialogue and the Kindertransport Association and so on. So he's starting to get on that process. He's got a little bit of catching up to do, but he won't take him too long. And he already has that sort of feel for the importance of it in history and the lessons to be learned. So I think he was very proud to be able to say some words at the unveiling. And as I say, he's after I'm gone, I leave things in his very capable hands for sure to maintain that messaging.
But, I
So
think it's good for people like Daniel and Bruno and Valentino to be able to talk about it because so many people, they just push it aside. They won't talk about it, will they? They don't want to remember it, or they want to think that it never actually happened. And it's good for younger people to actually speak about the truth of what actually happened, isn't it?
It is indeed, and there is, as I've learned more, and I'm still at the early stages of my discovery and education process, even though I'm 110 years old. And I've lived through it through my father. I'm still learning all the time in this regard. But there is an organization called G2G, or Generation to Generation, which does rely on second and third generation survivors, if we can call ourselves that. We've done nothing to deserve that title, but that's the title that's given to us. Who can actually go into places of education and share with the younger generation of today and ensure that that message is passed on. I'm still at a very early stage of researching that and maybe getting involved with them, and we'll see what comes out over the next year or two on that. But that's a natural progression perhaps for me in the future.
Yes. And Amy's been marvelous, hasn't she? With preparing Kindertransport, going to Yad Vashem and doing endless work, doesn't she, all the time?
She's incredible. She's like a little power tool. You t switch her on, and she doesn't. Or you don't even need to wind her up, and she off she goes. And the amount of information that she's discovered, the number of posts she puts on Facebook is unbelievable. She is just a go-getter person, maybe like a little Rottweiler as well. And I don't think she takes no for an answer when it comes to
No.
this. So the way she's been unable to uncover such information, and I know the joy that she feels and shares at having been able to help a lot of other families discover the truth about their family history. A little bit more difficult for mine because most of her information at the moment relates to sort of June, July 1939 onward. My father was one of the first ones, so she hasn't got that detail yet, but
No.
she's slowly working back towards it. But she feels that real emotion of and thankfulness and joy of being able to give and to help other people. And I think that's an incredible asset. And I have to say, she understands the Jewish culture far more than you would realize. And given that she is not of that persuasion herself, that adds just to that extra layer that somebody who you would normally think of as an outsider would spend so much time trying to help those on the inside to do it. And maybe again, she's one of the Trevor Chadwicks of the world.
Well, Paul, can you tell me one of the most important memories you have of when you came to Swanage?
I think that was a moment uh, in the bandstand when
Yes.
I met the people of the Kindertransport, second generation, especially. So I think that the other moment important for me is what I the what they received my speech.
Mm.
So I can, in certain way, can express what the second generation feel about the Kindertransport. This was very grateful. This was very important for me. The how was the reception of my
Mm.
speech? I am talking from Chile and have a different biography in some
Yes.
way. Yes. So this was very important for
Mm.
me. So in other way, uh, Austria wasn't very important for us, for our family, and also and for Peter as well. I think that his memories, his best memories, start in England. So Peter lived his teenage years and also like like a child in England. So the reception was very much warm, and that I have a reception in Austria, no? That
Yeah.
they is very different. They're very different people. So Austrians are not so warm. They don't want to remember this
No,
terrible story.
it was an
So
identity for you. You can identify with each other, can't you?
yes, I feel, and I feel like people are waiting for me, and they want to hear my what is my biography and was what happened with Peter, that he was a Kindertransport, a student in the forest school. So I feel good, very good. I feel in some way a part of 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 the group.
Yes. So we've not got very long left. So, Craig, what was the highlight of those two meetings in Swanage? What was the best memory that you had?
Well, the single best one would obviously be, from a purely selfish and personal perspective, the unveiling of the blue plaque, because that was such a great honor to be asked to do that. And as I say, not something that I deserve to do, because, as I say, it's down just as a second generation person. I'm not in control of that situation, but that was a huge honor. And in general, just a chance to meet up with people with whom, as I say, I have nothing in common, and yet I have everything in common, and we have that common bond, and the way that has led on in terms of feelers in other directions, not only with yourself and with Paul, but and with Amy, but with other people who were there on both occasions. And again, it just sort of directs me into the future. So it gives me a forward look. I'm looking forward, as even though the events were very, in a sense, looking backward. I'm very much looking forward in terms of what I can do and what I can learn from them, and what I can then communicate onward.
Well, one of the, I must admit, I really enjoyed all the talks on that May. I can't remember what day in May, but it was May the 15th, May the 16th, and I enjoyed all the talks. And it was good to have Werner Oder there
Mm.
because he gave the viewpoint of having been the son of a SS officer and how he's now a Christian. He hated his father. He didn't like to think of his father doing that, but now he does peace and reconciliation with Holocaust survivors. And I really enjoyed that lunch that we had, and everybody was
Mm.
talking, and Len was there from the
Hmm.
synagogue, and Werner was there, you both were there, cut the cake, and it was nice to have that fellowship. And then when we did the unveiling of the blue plaque, yes, I must have. Well, you were meant to do that because your father was in Swanage for a while and met Roger Brown.
Yeah, yes.
And people were amazed with Roger Brown because they always thought he was an eccentric nutcase. But yeah,
And he was.
he was, yes, but yes, he meant so much to Kindertransport
Mm.
people, when they were children. And so yes, that was amazing. And Adrian, my husband, he really enjoyed these 2 days, and we must have another one another time to get some information about why the blue plaque's there. But it all seems to have meant to be with Paul, with you, Craig,
Hmm.
Daniel, your wife, your two children. And actually, we're like a little family in a funny way, aren't we?
Yeah.
So anyway, thank you very much, Paul, for joining us. It was a privilege, and you, Craig.
Thank you.
And give our regards to Daniel and Bruno and Valentina. And you never know, we might meet up again sometime. But thank you very much. This is a history, and people need to know, don't they?
Exactly. And thank you for all you do, Elaine, to keep those memories alive and to keep it driving to the future. And as you said, you're already looking at what can I do next, and
Yes.
that's the excitement of it all. So,
We're all doing that, aren't we? You are, and Paul is. Anyway, goodbye, God bless. And thank you for watching this, those who do. And I hope you've enjoyed it as much as me. Bye.